what we are going to go over is called the Russian system in the Grunfeld, and I'm going to show you from Black's point of view. It's a very common system. They say, oh, White's just better in the Russian. I'm just going to play the Russian system. I'm going to show you how to defeat this Russian system. Now, White gains space in the center in this opening, but Black gets really quick development. So let's just go through the moves. And so, again, if you don't know how to play against the Russian system, boom. By the way, my name is JT. If you guys didn't know me and are here for the first time, my name is JapaneseTutor, and I teach chess. So let that be confusing for you. Okay, so C6, C4, G6, Knight C3, and then D5, right? Common. Knight F3, Bishop G7, and then Queen to B3. And the idea here is D captures C4, Queen captures C4, and castles. So we can already see that Black already has castled. He has his bishop on G7, strong bishop. The Knight already controlling key squares, and then for White, they have a really big center. They have a lot of control over the center. So what we're going to do in the Grunfeld is we're going to counterattack somehow. And so there are many lines, and we're going to go over them, or most of them today. So E4, right? And then after this, so this is the move that I'm going to show you now. It's not the main move, but it's a really good alternative move. Okay? It's Knight to C6. And the reason that I'm going to bring this up is because a lot of people only prep for the main line. They don't prep for anything else, right? And so they're like, oh, you just played something that's not in my main line. My head's going to explode. I have to think for myself. Oh, no. And the plans are slightly different from the main line, so this is why I like it. And so, okay, let's say they play D5. Okay, and actually, so they have a lot of moves here, and we're going to do the main move is actually bishop to e2. We're not going to cover that move because that requires a separate video in and of itself. So this one, and a separate lesson. This one we're going to cover is without the bishop e2, okay, on move 8. So d5. So let's go over if they play d5 first. And they have a lot of moves here. They have d5, they have bishop f4, bishop e3, h3. What else do they have? They have an immediate e5. And we're gonna go over all of the above actually. And so let's start off with d5. What should we play on d5? We should play knight to a5. Okay, knight to a5. We're attacking the queen. Queen goes to c5. Now note that if you play queen to d3 here, Black can already get a good position. And the way Black gets a good position is by liking, subscribing to the YouTube channel. Are you serious? Do it right now. Like and subscribe. Anyways, then you just play c6. And the idea with c6, right? You can achieve a very comfortable position because of takes, knight captures c6, queen captures d8, rook captures d8, bishop e2, b6, and let's just keep developing. Bishop f4, knight b4, and after, let's say, a bad move. Oh, e5 is not a bad move. E5 is a good move. Knight e4, and this is already annoying for White, right? But let's say you play a bad move like a3. Instead of playing e5, you play a3. Then we have this beautiful move, knight to d3, and it's very uncomfortable for White. Okay. So in this line, if they play e5, knight e4, takes, and I will link the PGN down below. I have it saved on chess.com, and I have it saved in a text file just in case it doesn't work for chess. Like that link doesn't work, so I'm gonna make sure it works first. I'll send it. I also have it in my Discord. The Discord is linked down below. So once I do this lesson and when it goes live, I'll put it in the freebie text channel or the freebie lessons text channel. Okay, so they should play queen c5 and then c6, and the idea. Oh, by the way, you might be saying, whoa, they're knights on the rim. It has to be dim. I have to play, I have to play b4 here. And actually, b4 does not work. And if you want, you can pause the video, try to find it by yourself, but I'm going to go ahead and give you the answer. So it's going to be c captures d5, and then after b captures a5, now knight captures e4. Now look at this. Knight captures e4, d captures e4. Now I'm attacking the knight. I'm attacking the knight on f3. The knight has to move to e5. And after this, we have three beautiful moves. We have bishop to e6, bishop to f5, and also the immediate queen to d6. All of them are great choices. I think bishop e6 and bishop f5 are slightly stronger. The idea is all of white's pieces are in the back row. They haven't been moved. They have not been developed. The king is in the center. This queen is awkward. This knight is awkward. Okay? Black is just way ahead in development and has nothing. So that's what happens if you play b4. Okay? So yeah, b4 does not work. So yeah, they should take. Knight captures c6, bishop e2, bishop to g4, bishop to e3, knight to d7, queen a3, and bishop captures f3. This idea is huge. One, you're asking them, hey, are you going to ruin your pawn structure? Or are you going to put your bishop on a very weak square? And after bishop captures on f3, then we have knight to d4, and this is a very easy to play position, and it's also equal for black. Right? And you're going to see a lot of the time that black is fighting for equality. Right? There's no line where white is, so black is just going to destroy, right? Unless they fall for a trap, unless, they're not playing correctly. But if I'm giving you the most accurate moves and giving you sidelines to get better, right? So we're just fighting for equality, and I will show you some traps, so don't worry, right? Probably the best here, and this is where my line ends, but probably the best here is just to accept, like, hey, this knight is very annoying, take, and castles, and that's pretty much it. I think you should just play like this. Maybe the bishop needs to reroute back to e2 because it being on c4 is a way better square for the bishop. It's just the pawn's in the way, right? Okay, so let's go back to knight c6. Right, we just played knight c6 after they played e4. They have a huge center. What if they play bishop to f4? Okay, so bishop f4, and after that we play bishop to g4. Now this is going to be quite beautiful. Now the move that they should play is d5, but if they play this move, rook to d1, which seems extremely natural, right? We just want to push the pawn, we want to have a rook behind it, we're developing, right? Then we have this beautiful continuation of bishop capture after. Actually, rook d1 is a big positional and strategical mistake. So g captures f3, knight h5, bishop e3, and now e5. Ooh. After d captures e5, queen h4, and we're going to regain the e5 pawn. Not only that, we are going to control all of the dark squares after we recapture. Okay, so even if you play like something like, let's say, queen b3, knight captures e5, let's say you try to capture here. Well, obviously you can't, but you can kind of get the idea. Let's say bishop g2, trying to stay somewhat safe, and then rook to d8, and this is just a horrible position to play. I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. All right, so bishop f4, bishop g4, and then you should play d5. And again, I will give you the notes in the Discord at the bottom. I'll link it down below. And I will also have a text file on the Discord. I said that twice. Whatever. Doesn't matter. So bishop captures f3. D captures c6. Okay. D captures c6 is very good. If they do play, like, instead of capturing on c6, if they capture on f3 first, then what you can do is you can just play knight h5, bishop e3, knight e5, queen e2, and then b5. Really, really important resource. This is actually an equal game. And so we're actually going to see this resource played one more time, right? So after d captures c6, just remember this resource. This is a huge resource, right? What is defending the e4 square? How many defenders do we have on the e4 square? How many defenders do we have on the how many defenders, how many attackers, right? We have two attackers. We have the knight, and we have the bishop, and the defenders are here and here, right? If you have an equal amount of attackers to defenders, the attackers always lose. So this way we play b5 and say, hey, get your attacker out of there. So actually the best move here is to play knight captures b5. But let's say they play queen captures b5. Now we have this a huge move, and black actually can seize the initiative with knight captures e4. And this is one of the reasons that I sometimes play the Grunfeld and sometimes add it to my repertoire of like things that I'm going to play in a tournament, because it gets so exciting like this. Like you have ideas like this, right? So knight captures e4, bishop captures e4, rook d1, and queen to e8, very, very strong. After rook to d7, rook to b8, queen a4, bishop f5, and they have to give us the rook. They have to give us the rook. Right? I mean, like, okay, like, let's say we don't. Let's say we play, like, rook here. Bishop captures b2 is very strong. Let's say we take on c7 and say, hey, this pawn's going to be very strong, right? Your whole house falls after rook captures here. Rook captures b2 just invites everything to party. Like, let's just play a nothing move. Let's just play a nothing move. Bishop c3. Let's say king... Let's say king here, right? There's so many good moves. e5 here, right? We have also like rook b1, king e2, e5. Like, where does this bishop go? Rook b2. Oof. Oof. Right? Like, this is just too much, right? So this is way too much. So yeah, this is bishop f5, very strong, and it's still about equal, but they have to give that up if they playing that rook to d7. Okay. So instead, they should play knight captures b5, and here you should play just captures with the bishop instead. And so here the best move for white is to play rook to d1. But the natural move is say, hey, I'm hungry for pawns. I want to take a pawn, right? And so if you try to take with the bishop here, queen c8, very strong move. Queen c8, and you can see that after, let's say they play rook d1, a6, let's say knight c3, queen captures c7, captures on e4, captures on e4, queen captures e4, now queen a5, beautiful move. Because if b4, then bishop here. And we can see that the pawns are very weak. The king is still in the center. And our rooks are going to come to the center very quickly. Okay. I mean, the best line is to play just here, right? This is the best line. And then just we take with the bishop. And everything is pretty much good. Maybe something like g3 or king f3 to try to like stay safe. But even then, we just develop our rooks, and I think we should be good, like rook fc8, for example. And black has a slight edge here. It's still about equal, though. You still have to play on, but I think with these two weaknesses, it's going to be very, very hard to defend for the average player. Okay, and let's go back and let's say what happens after knight captures c7, right? We did bishop captures. What happens if knight captures on c7? If knight captures on c7, then we have this beautiful move e5, right? And on e5, let's say bishop captures e5, queen e7, hitting this, and after f4, rook ac8, black is just way better here. We have way too much going on. All of our pieces are developed and active. The only piece that's not developed is this rook. Right? We're going to trade off here, and the king is still in the center. The c6 pawn is going to fall. This bishop is going to be a monster. There's just no coming back from this. Okay, so the next thing, so we have to go back and say, okay, well, rook d1, right? So what happens on rook d1, queen c8, f3, attacking, right? And so here we play queen to f5, and here we actually have an amazing move. This is actually played a few years ago. I think it was 10 years ago. It's not a few. Some of you guys are only 10 years old. But after bishop captures c7, then the beautiful move bishop captures f3. And so what happened in the game was bishop d3, but I want to show you what happens if they take, right? What happens if they take, and if you try to play rook g1, then queen e3, GG. And look at this king. This king is so sorry. It's a really just a horrible piece. Right, queen e2, queen captures g1, right? And so what they played was after bishop captures f3, they played bishop to d3. And after bishop d5, takes, bishop back to d3, defending the knight. Takes, and then after this, black is just better. They're going to play a6, the c6 pawn is going to fall, and their pieces are just better. So the idea here is just to play bishop e5, rook c6, and maybe just castles, and just try to come back from a worse position. I mean, like rook c5, for example. Bishop captures f6, bishop captures f6, something happens, like say knight c3, and then maybe bishop e5 or bishop captures even c3 is good here because of the weakness that we can make. I think maybe even this line makes sense, right? B captures c3, rook a to c8. And we have this pass pawn. And if we can make a huge pawn chain, that would be amazing for us. Especially with the rook on c5 holding the f5 pawn just in case of a g4 idea, right? But yeah, so just remember that line with the bishop captures f3 line. And so let's go on to the next idea. What happens if bishop e3? This is like the more reserved, right? And we're not gonna play bishop to f4. We're gonna play bishop e3 and, you know, go slowly. So here, this is a very common idea for anybody who plays a fianchetto system and a fianchetto setup. And fianchetto is just when you develop your bishop to this little pocket over here. So knight to g4, very standard stuff. And so the idea here is after they play e5, we don't take immediately, okay? Don't take immediately. You don't have to get so hasty. What you want to do is you want to play bishop e6. And so insert this move first. And you're going to see in a lot of Grunfeld lines, they're going to play queen c5. I mean, the queen just can't be kicked, and it's a good piece. And queen in the center that cannot be moved is a great piece, right? So after queen c5, knight captures e3, f captures e3. Now that we have moved the queen off of c4, because our main break, if we see a break, right, it's f6 and c5, right? These are our two main breaks in the position. So we need to kind of set up one of these breaks. So bam, bishop d7. Castles, and it might look like white has an amazing center. It looks like white is just dominating, but we have to be very accurate with our moves, because if we don't make the most accurate moves here, we can lose very quickly. And so let me show you what these accurate moves are. So b6, queen to a3, a5. Right? Let's say they try to go for some initiative on the king side very quickly, right? They have nothing to fear. Now we have a knight b4, and if h5, then c5, our break. H captures g6, h captures g6, d captures c5, and now queen c8. The idea is after c captures b6, bishop e6, and now we have lines to the enemy king, and it's good chances for both sides. And I like these kind of like crazy positions because it makes my opponent think, it makes me think, and you know, it just comes to who's the better tactical player instead of, you know, just memorizing a system. Well, I guess we're also memorizing this. So, right. So the next point after this is that they actually have another bishop move in their repertoire, which is bishop to g5. Okay. Bishop to g5, and what do we play here? So bishop to g4, castles, and now knight to d7. Why? Why do we want to play knight to d7? Because where's the king? The king is on the king's side. I'm sorry, the king is on the, well, the king's wherever he is, but the king on the board is on the queen's side, right? And so that's where our pieces need to be. Right, so after e5, knight to b6, queen c5. Again, I told you that this move is very important. You're going to see this a lot in these Grunfeld setups. And so now that the queen is not on the c4, right, the idea is now f6. You know, Ben Feingold saying, oh, don't play f6. Don't worry about it. You can play it. Trust in me. All right, so after this, bishop to e3. F captures, D captures. And after this, now this is an amazing point, right? Because just remember that this is a discovered attack on the queen. Queen C8 was like the old move. The improvement is queen to E8. And we'll see why very soon. Because after bishop to, let's say, E2, now our queen has multiple functions. Like, it doesn't block the bishop from coming back. It doesn't share the same diagonal. And we can try to use this diagonal and also get out of the way of the rook. Now we're going to play this a very, very fantastic move. There are two good moves here. The first one is E6. But I like, so I'm a dragon player, and there's this Kasparov line where he plays rook C5. And so I like those kind of moves. So rook F5 here is a really, really nice idea. And so after rook H to E1, just, you know, bishop captures F3, captures on F3, rook captures E5, bishop captures C6, B captures C6, queen A3. The idea after knight D5, and black enjoys a slight advantage here because of the bishop. I mean, the queen E8 idea. It's like, it's a very small, like it's still drawish. It's still equal, but like black can enjoy a small advantage just because this knight is very strong. This bishop is very strong. The only thing about it is that you do have 4 pawn islands, right? And so they have 2. So they have better pawns than you do. Yes, technically you're up a pawn, but your pawns are very ugly. So it's a hard position to win. But I do believe that black is slightly better here. Okay. So what happens after, so let's say they don't play a bishop move on move 8. Let's say they go back, right? And they play H, well, not here, but H3. On H3, we have this amazing idea of E5. Now, this is one of the main moves actually here, H3. Just so this is like one point that you really should focus on because H3 is seen a lot. And so E5. So D captures E5, knight D7, E6. F captures E6, queen captures E6. And now it looks very scary for us, right? Like, we're like, oh no, like, why is the queen in there? And so after king H8, so we have a lot of good moves, right? So queen D5 is supposed to be good, but also black gets into some trouble if they play bishop G5. Oh, sorry. After here, here. Yeah, if you play bishop G5, then we have knight D to E5. And so you might think, oh, this is just a easy queen trade, right? Well, actually, no, because of takes, and now bishop captures on E6, bishop captures on C7, and now rook captures on F3, regaining back the pawn. And also we have a really easy attack on the F file, and also a lot of control of the F file. So this is actually pretty good. Also queen B3, like if they go back from the attack and they play, instead of queen D5, queen B3. This is actually a slight mistake because of knight to C5. And so this, you know, we always want to play like queen B3 because we want to play, you know, knight G5 and give them a smothers checkmate and call ourselves geniuses, right? But so queen B3 is a move that you might see. And now after queen to C4, knight D4, knight D5, we have this amazing move, knight captures E4. Now this looks good, right? It looks, oh wait, and you're like, JT, you're losing a piece. Go back, fix the video. But knight captures D4, knight captures F2. Ooh, this is where it gets spicy, guys. Rook G1, C6. Winning on the spot. And it looks like we sacked a piece, and it looks like we sacked another piece, and it's just, no, we didn't. We're okay here. We're totally okay here. So after king H8, after king moves after queen check, queen D5, this is the main idea of this line, okay, guys? Rook captures F3. And then knight to D4, threatening knight to C2, threatening, you know, knight F3, threatening many things. So here, so some people have tried to play like king D1. And I'll show you that line first. So if king D1, then C6, queen G5, trying to trade off queens, bishop F6, queen E3, and knight captures F3 with initiative. After king C2, knight D to E5, Bishop G2, knight D4 check, king B1, knight C4, queen D3, bishop E6. It's very clear to see that black has all the play and the initiative. Right? If you play like something like here, then we can have knight B5 as well, and like this position is it looks amazing for us. Yes, technically we're down 2 points of material, but I think that this is better for black. Or at least a slight edge. Maybe better is a little bit too much, but at least a slight edge. Right? So let's go back to after rook captures f3, g captures f3, knight d4, and now bishop e3 is a move that they should play. Check. Knight takes on e1, bishop e2, c6, queen d6, and now bishop e5, queen d3. Queen f8 is actually a really strong idea. The idea of queen e8 is not only to defend here, but also to maybe attack and then put our pieces on good squares. Right? And so you want to really try to find these multi-purpose moves in your games. After rook captures on a1, knight c5, queen c4, and now after b6, king c2, bishop e6, queen b4, bishop captures h3. It's basically equal, and it's equal chances for both sides. What we do have to notice is that we do have an outside pass pawn, right? And our pieces are good. We might get a doubled pawn here, so you do have to be quite careful. But I think if we can just play like, let's just play some move. Let's play rook d1. Maybe like something like bishop g7, and let's say I'll play nothing move, like something like this. Then I think something maybe like even rook e8, getting our pieces active, getting our pieces back, is probably one of the better ways to go. Although it's up to you guys to play that endgame. This is only opening class, but feel free to leave in the comments how you would proceed in that position. Okay, so the next point and the final point is what happens if white instead decides, hey, I'm just going to push your pieces around and I'm just going to try to take the center. Now we play knight d7, bishop e3. Now, if you're a madman and you like crazy positions, then you can play this crazy idea of bishop e6. This is not what I'm recommending, but I just thought it would be an interesting side note. This should be somewhat better for black. I don't know how good it is. You have to be comfortable giving away 3 minor pieces for a queen and 2 pawns, right? So takes, right? You have a queen, and they have 2 bishops and a knight and 2 rooks. Although you also have 2 pawns, right? So if you're comfortable with this position, go for it. But it's not what I'm recommending here. So what I'm recommending is after e5, knight to d7, bishop e3, knight to b6, queen c5, and now a5. Now the reason for a5 is a really, really amazing idea, right? This knight is not doing anything, right? It's basically blocked off. And so we want to get this knight from here to here to d5 to be a good piece. So after bishop e2, knight to b4, and they could play a3 as well, but after bishop g4, it gets kind of shaky. Castles, c6, knight to e4, bishop to f5, knight to g3, bishop to d3, bishop to d2, knight d7. What a fun position, right? We're just keep attacking each other. Queen c1, bishop captures e2, c5, and if they play a3 now, knight to d5, knight to c3, and e6 with a very, very complicated but fun position. And so that's it for today's class. I hope that you enjoyed the lesson. I hope that you really liked it, and I hope you found value in this lesson. I stream pretty much every day, Monday through Saturday, from 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you want to join in on the lessons, feel free to come through. I'll link it down below. All the links are going to be down below. Thank you guys for everything, and thank you for watching, and subscribe and like, and I'll see you next time.